Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a fantastic guest. Now, she's not the classic Ponchatoula Live guest in that she lives 2 blocks away from me or has an office 2 blocks away from me. She's from out of town, and frankly, her business is located in Hammond, not Ponchatoula. But don't hold that against her. She's coming on the show today because her business has a great impact on our community. It serves our community in a variety of ways that you'll learn about. And frankly, she's one of the top women in business, not just here in Tangipahoa, but in the whole state of Louisiana and the whole region in the South. And on top of that, she married one of my favorite people ever, the longtime Ponchatoula High School football announcer and legendary David Crawfish Cottrell. I'm talking, of course, about Eloise Cottrell. Eloise, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Parker. I don't know how long you did that introduction, but I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm very grateful that you agreed to cross the creek and come down from your lofty offices on the main drag in Hammond there to visit with us here in Ponchatoula. I have long admired you, and your husband's just one of my heroes and one of my favorite people. There are few people in life that when I see them call on my phone with a text or I see them at an event, I just immediately brighten and smile. But Crawfish is one of those guys. But enough about him. Today's about you, not me. If you don't mind, let's kick things off with you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm born and raised in Macomb, Mississippi. Grew up in Macomb for the most part. Lived in D.C. for a number of years, but graduated from Macomb High School. Went to Mississippi State, and through various, we might get into it later, but landed here a few years after college. I did not know a soul that lived here. All I knew about this area was that I had gone to the Strawberry Festival as a teenager and snuck away and gone. But this area, I said I would give it 6 months, and that was 25 years ago.
Wow.
So it's been the most welcoming, wonderful community, and I've loved it. And I consider, since I'm not from here, I don't know the divide with the creek and all that stuff. So I just consider myself as from Tangipahoa Parish.
Yeah, you don't carry all that baggage. It's funny with different mentalities. Darren Bennett was on the show, and he taught me something I'd never heard in my 48 years of Ponchatoula life, which was the from here versus come here dynamic, which is kind of a so Ponchatoula way to say it. But those of us that we're not around for the old days. Like, for example, there's the old days when they say Italians were not welcome. Well, now I'm married to an Italian, and I'm raising 2 little hot-headed Italian boys. So that's all changed a lot. But I didn't know you had the Mississippi State roots. That made me smile because my godfather, Jack Parker Vaughn, was a big-time Mississippi State guy.
Yes.
I grew up visiting him in the summers, watching baseball games there, and it's a magical place. One of my favorite guests here ever was Sarah Mitchell, who I'm sure you know. There's a lot of Mississippi State kind of blood running through this area, and I'm glad to hear that you're part of that. You mentioned Macomb, Mississippi. That's a place we've all kind of, driven through, been there, stop in to eat, do whatever.
Yeah.
Folks like me that grew up with hunting camps spent a lot of time there on the way to and back from the camp. What was it like from the childhood perspective? What was like for you growing up there?
It was wonderful. It was a great place to grow up. It was not unlike Ponchatoula back in that day. It's different now, but it was a great place to grow up. Very safe. Everybody knew each other's business. Everybody knew everything about you, so you couldn't really get away with much. But it was just enough where you could get away with enough on Friday and Saturday nights. But I had a happy childhood there.
That's cool. That sounds a lot like the way I grew up. And you're right. There's both of those towns kind of sweet spots size-wise.
Absolutely.
Big enough to have a few things like a restaurant or a gas station or the amenities you need as a kid, but not so big you kind of got overwhelmed with people not knowing who's who. Well, you mentioned coming here, giving it 6 months. What was the impetus of your migration down here, and how did that go?
So I went to law school for a year at Mississippi College, and that was not going to be my future. And so I was kind of struggling a little bit. I was 22 20 something.
I hope I'm not giving you PTSD with all those law books behind you.
That's fine. My dad's an attorney, so it's fine. I'm used to it.
You're used to it.
But so my father, who lives in Macomb, he had just bought a radio station in Hammond and did not know anybody here either, and said, "Okay, you've got to do something with yourself and get some direction. Do you want to try radio?" And I was like, "I don't think that's for me, but I will go for 6 months and I'll try it out." And so I moved here, and I moved in Morgan and Lindsay Apartments in Hammond downtown.
Right.
And the first person I met, which you mentioned Sarah Mitchell, she was about the fifth person that I met. But the first person I met was Amanda Adams, who is from Hammond.
Super.
And she saw me in my apartment complex and said, she introduced herself, and she said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "Well, I don't know anybody." And she said, "Well, we're going with some friends to Jock Mill tonight. Do you want to join us for a drink?" And I was like, "Sure." And that was the start of it.
That's wonderful. Well, you couldn't. I mean, you got lucky there, and kind of who you met first and fifth, and I hope three through four were pretty good too. So, so you do that. Jock Mill is a good place to start. I mean,
It was. It really was.
Classy, clientele there and whatnot. When was it you turned the corner from Dad, I'll give you 6 months getting this station started or whatever, to I think maybe I could be here long term, and then eventually I'm going to make a home here and stick it out?
I can't remember exactly, but there was a group of us that I started to meet more women, and a group of us started a book club. And all of a sudden, I started making friends from all over the community, of all ages. And Sarah was in the book club. So the book club has since broken up. We broke up in, I don't know, 2000, probably 8. But there's a group of us, there's 4 of us that still go to dinner once a month. And probably about a year into being in that book club, I looked around and thought, these are not just right now friends, these are forever friends. And for the most part, most of them have been.
Yeah, that's so neat. My mom's got a book club of forever friends, and they're all classy ladies. I think most of them live in Hammond. Miss Neetsy, Mary Jo, etc.
Yeah.
My mom hosted them at her house last week, and she revealed to me that she no longer reads the book. She hasn't read the book in maybe years, certainly like 8 months or something. This time she didn't even cook the food herself. She had to So I said, "Mama, you need to like move to moderator or emeritus status or something, but you can't just stay in the book club." But they do. It's the best little relationship thing that they've got going, and it's so much fun. Well, I'm glad you found them. So as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm going off of recollection of decades, not years here. You mentioned your dad being in the business, but also your brother was in the family business too, right? So, let's, if you don't mind, let's focus a little on the family you come from and that kind of entrepreneurial spirit where you guys are in the business building world, because we're going to talk about Northshore Media Group and the many wonderful things that y'all offer our community here in a bit. But if you don't mind, give me a little bit of origin story, and when you got interested in that kind of stuff, and what it was like growing up with a dad who was also an entrepreneur, and what was childhood like on that front as you entered adulthood?
Childhood was good. Now for you, for me, it was a little unique because, well, it started out, my grandfather was in radio. My grandfather owned a number of radio stations on the coast and in Georgia, Arkansas, and some in North Mississippi. And my dad was supposed to go into the radio business as their attorney and decided not to. And so he and my mom, after they finished Millsaps and after he finished law school, they moved to Macomb. But he started buying a few radio stations here and there and still dabbling in it, but he never ever has been in the day-to-day.
And was this separate from the grandfather kind of radio empire, if you will?
Some that owned together and some he owned by himself. But then when I was in right between first and second grade, my dad was elected to Congress, and so all the radio stations went back to my grandfather, and we moved to DC until I was back and forth until I was in about 9th grade. And so then when we came back from DC, then Dad started again kind of dabbling in the radio business. I had my first job was working as a DJ on Sundays from 2 until 6 as WXLT in Macomb, Mississippi.
Did you say Sundays? The Sunday show? Oh, yeah.
So I had the 2 to 6, and then my brother had 6 to midnight, and he had the dedication show, which was big in that day. And so that's kind of how my brother and I both kind of went into radio, started in radio, but neither one of us really had the drive to be in radio, except for it kind of, but for both of us, it was just a fluke, but a wonderful fluke. And so my grandfather, who died in 2000, then my uncle is also in the business on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but he just always loved radio so much. And so it was just all we knew growing up on that side of the family was just always radio.
Yeah. Well, the pieces are coming together for me a little bit why I like you so much, because I'm hearing a personal history that mirrors so much of one of my favorite people on this planet, and that's Hobby Morrison. Hobby, like you, grew up, the child of a congressman. So there are all these great stories between small town South and big city Washington, D.C. But he also, like you, went to law school, but was smart enough not to ride it out like his dad and become an attorney. He veered in another direction, like you, into the media. So there are a lot of cool connections there. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, now as an adult, I kick myself and say, why didn't I just go 2 more years? But at the time, 2 years seemed like forever.
Oh, no, I hear you. And it's fun. Hobby and I've had so many fun talks because, he had some, let me think of how to say this, some ethical objections to the way LSU Law School was grading at the time. And so he kind of, did a little protest and left. And I don't know if it was more about protesting those serious issues or the fact that he did not want to be a lawyer like his dad and perhaps a future congressman. But, when I got to law school and then when I started teaching at the law school, we've had all these great kind of talks about it. And it's a fun topic. But that's neat. I had no idea y'all shared that history. Yes. So that's how you get into radio. You kind of get sent here as a satellite operation of sort. Hey, we're going to leave the former home grounds of Mississippi and Georgia, head down to Louisiana. Did your brother come at the same time or later, or how does that all work?
So no, my brother got into radio a little bit before I did, but he was up in Macomb, and he and his wife had started a family there. Macomb, at the time, was having a little bit of a struggle with their public schools. And so later on, after I moved here, they decided that they might come down here for the schools. I've been trying to get them down here. And then at the time, we'd also bought stations in Covington. So then by that point, we had stations in Macomb, later Brookhaven, then Hammond. By then, we'd bought out Guarantee, which had bought out the show bands. And then we bought 2 stations over in St. Tammany, so it made sense, but we needed somebody to kind of really, by then I'd kind of established my roots in Hammond. He did not want to live in St. Tammany. He loves St. Tammany Parish, but at the time it became very evident that the traffic and all that stuff might be a little much for a couple with 4 young children. So they moved to Hammond also, but he works in our St. Tammany market.
Okay, neat. Well, look, I want to share with you a comment that's come in, I think all the way from South Carolina, because I know Jason Hood's as big an LSU Tiger fan as it gets. And I'm not going to out him that he's up there already. And I haven't talked to him to confirm this, but I think maybe Jason's up there near Clemson. But Jason Hood, the famous former Hammond City councilman and big shot in Hammond, he's commented here. He says, Eloise is the best. I love how she always incessantly blows the horn when she passes my house.
Which I do. And if anybody I would know that would comment, it would be Jason. Hey, Jason.
Jason's a trip, man. Hey, man, when your buddies will watch your show all the way from Seneca, South Carolina, or wherever he may be, I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you, Jay, for tuning in. And Eloise, that's how you know you're a good draw, when we can get viewers, from across the creek up there in Hammond. So, folks, to anyone else watching live, as you can see from Jason's comment, we have the ability for you to converse with Eloise. So if you just want to say hey or crack a joke as Jason did, feel free to. If you have a question for her about herself or Northshore Media Group, fire away. As your host, I'll do my best to get you in here. We're here with Eloise Cottrell. We're talking about her life and her upbringing. But I think the folks really want to hear about is Northshore Media Group, the radio empire that you guys have. Yeah, but you have much more now. There are print offerings, Tangy Lifestyle Magazine, digital offerings, podcasting. That's much more professionally produced than my little two-person. So, Eloise, if you don't mind, we're talking a bit about the history of the group and how you and your brother got here. But tell me about the company and kind of what y'all are up to now.
So Northshore Media Group, of course, started as radio stations, but it's grown to 13 radio stations. I'm going to get something wrong.
Wow.
Parker, so forgive me. 13 radio
so
stations.
Nobody's fact checking this show, I can promise.
Okay, good. 5 print publications. We do podcasting studios in 2 locations, and then we offer a full digital suite. So as my business partner, Brian Showery, says, if we can offer pretty much anything marketing except for a billboard or a TV. And so it's just grown through the years. We love what we do. We've stumbled into half of what we do. But the main gist of what we try to do is try to promote this community. We love this community. We love each community where we are. We know that they're growing and we're glad for the growth, but yet we like still the small town feel. Right. And somebody said to me years ago, I want this to be the place, our radio stations at the time, I want this to be the place that somebody calls if they're missing their dog. And we still feel that way. Yeah. So we just still try to promote the towns in which we serve, the towns where we are located.
Well, and I think people have seen you built up the credibility, at least here in the Hammond, Ponchatoula area that we live in. You have proven through actions, not just words, to be genuinely interested in the community. And I'll tell you the 2 things that stick out to me as obvious examples of that with the radio station in Hammond. One is when, Johnny in the morning sticks around as long as he did. With you. That's kind of a legendary family to be inheriting the station from. And we've all seen deals where, so-and-so is supposed to stick around and, they're out of there. The 2nd to 2-year contract lets them go compete elsewhere or whatever. And yet y'all have maintained a relationship that endured for a very long time. And that lets people know that you honor your word and you're good people, to be with, because he would choose to stay with you up there. But also the one I've been personally involved with, the TARC Radiothon. I mean, I'm blessed to be the current president of TARC the last 2 years, but that's such an important organization in serving this community. The people that need our help the most, the developmentally disabled, people who can't help themselves in many instances. And Lord knows what it costs you business-wise to give us that full day, and for many years, 2 days. I mean, you really dig deep to give back to the community. So I know when you say that you care about a community as a corporation, you mean it, because frankly, you're putting your money where your mouth is, and actions speak louder than words. So do you feel that way? Am I on the right track with that summation of how y'all?
Well, that's really nice of you to say that. And I think the thing is that we've got to put our money where our mouth is. A lot of times I'll say, behind closed doors, I'll be like, we are not a nonprofit. We are a for-profit business. But again, we want to promote the wonderful things in this community and things like TARC, name all the nonprofits. That's what we should be doing. It's why, I feel like we're here to serve, and it's what we do. Of course we make money from advertising, but those people also want to promote this community and promote their business within a business that promotes the community. And as far as Johnny is concerned, Johnny had gotten out of the radio business for a minute, and right when we bought one of the stations here, I can't remember. I remember somebody said, you need to find Johnny Chauvin. And so I found him. He had his photography business, and we met at Brady's, right? I don't even know what year that was. And I said, would you be willing to come back to radio? And he said, absolutely. And we've been together through thick and thin since then.
Well, and he's such a great guy. I grew up, my mom and her dear friend Nancy Walker opened this antique shop when I was a kid. And my dad loved to gripe about, because it was, he was a poor country sheriff, and he would claim it was the bane of his existence. They would spend more on antiques they wanted to buy and they weren't selling. But Johnny was their photographer. They would do these, newsletters and send down to rich ladies in New Orleans, and so Johnny was always around and a dear family friend. And then it was later I realized, oh wait, he's the radio guy. I didn't know that.
But,
he's just such a staple of this community and institution, and it's been neat to see you guys work well together over the years. So, if you wouldn't mind, and tell me, you mentioned Brian Shirey, and I'm glad, because another one of my favorite people, he's your business partner. As I understand it, you have a few principals there. It's you, your brother, and Brian.
Correct.
Anyone else, or is it the three of you?
What
are your roles? How do y'all divvy up the roles of ownership of a company like this?
Sometimes behind closed doors yelling, but usually nicely. We all have our strong suits, but and weaknesses. But Brian came on with us in about, and I'm going to get this wrong, I think it's 2012. And I think I speak for both my brother and myself that business is not our strongest thing about us. I don't have a head for business. I'm the first to say it. I can sell.
Hey, that makes two of us on this call, so don't feel bad about it.
I can sell things all day long.
Yeah.
But so yes, so Brian and Charles and I are in the process of doing final buyout of my father. We're just going kind of through some FCC stuff, and Charles, like I said earlier, is over our St. Tammany market, and it does a morning show over there, and also does a lot of behind the scenes things to improve our technology and our sound and everything like that. I'm mostly lead sales, and then Brian does sales and is the general manager of the business. And so ultimately, when it comes down to it, Brian is the decision maker. The three of us do very well together, but in the
it sounds like a good synergy there with different strengths.
It is, and in the day-to-day operations, he's the boss. Now,
gotcha.
I defer to him.
Yeah.
No, but we have a lot of fun at work, and we basically all have the same vision, and that's just to keep this company with our eyes on the community and promote the communities in which we serve. So we all have. We have disagreements, of course, but for the most part, it works very well.
Well, what do you love about this? Because it strikes me that you're someone who comes from a great family, a prominent family, by Southern standards, a well-to-do family. You're well-educated, you're beautiful, dynamic. You could do anything in the world is what I'm getting at here. You could go anywhere in the world, but you've decided to stay here, not just in this community, but at this company this long. You must really have some aspects of the job you love. What are they?
I love meeting people. I love hearing people's stories. And so with radio, we can do that. But we've always done it kind of on a smaller scale because we've got to play some music. I mean, it's radio, but we do our daily interviews, 2 interviews, sometimes 3 interviews per morning to promote the nonprofits, to promote things going about in town, to talk to our local politicians, to see what's going on and get the pulse of the community. And so then as an extension of that, we literally stumbled into Tangy Lifestyles, and we had already started a magazine in St. Tammany Parish called Edge of the Lake, which again is just an extension of what we do on the radio, which is to highlight things going on in the community. And I've just found that it's just so much fun. And as a result, then we bought Lucky Bucks, and that is, okay, we can help some people save some money and promote business and things like that. So, again, why do I love what I do? I love meeting people, and we, especially through Tangy Lifestyles, with the start in radio. But
I'm a big fan of Tangy Lifestyles. We have several copies on the walls in my office. Right to the side of you'll see the long ago when I was on the cover. It's there, and what I love about it is a few things, among others. One, it's positive. One core kind of commitment I made when I started this little show was to keep it positive. I tell folks, when guests come on, I don't ask about ex-wives or ex-boyfriends or bad days at the office. We all have good and bad. Let's keep it positive. But 2, there's a quality control with Tangy Lifestyles that to me would be exceptional at any level of magazine, but especially impressive for a small one. I mean, your photography is fantastic.
Thank you.
Lighting is so tight.
Thank you.
It's just very well done. And even the selection, the editorial who you pick to do your 5 favorite things. I mean, except for the time y'all picked me, it's pretty much no
Oh, we're
miss.
so glad you said yes. Thank you.
But it's just, it's so well done. How's that? Who do y'all have an editor in chief, and who is it, or do y'all just collaborate? How do y'all get such quality product out
Well,
time and time again?
it's definitely a collaboration, but a woman
Okay.
named Angela Blake puts it together for us, and she's the most patient, nicest, literally most patient, nice person.
Yeah.
But it is sometimes I'll get a copy and think this looks kind of hokey, but then it is a reflection of how we are as a community, and that's just we want to tell the stories of people, and so we just kind of all will throw around ideas, and we literally keep our ideas on a whiteboard and then just mark them off as we go. Or I can be talking to Parker in the grocery store, and he can say, oh, my buddy so-and-so is doing a fundraiser for so-and-so. And I'll say, that's a fantastic story. We're going to put it in the next Change Your Lifestyles. There's no method to the madness, really, of how we put it together. It's just, we want to find, like you said, good, positive stories, or stories for people in need, or that, things that we can draw attention to. Like one example is the shower ministry at the Presbyterian Church in Hammond, things like that. And by the way, I'm just going to go ahead and say, for anybody that's listening, we're always looking for story ideas, and we welcome any suggestions, comments, criticisms. We'll take it. We understand that we spell people's name all the time incorrectly. Right. We will mess up something so badly, but we have the best intentions.
Oh, I can relate. I get that here. People are like, oh, you mispronounced this person's name. Yes. And I don't even get Layrisson right all the time. I mean, the joke in our family is we say our own name the wrong way. And so, but what I love is you have the audacity to get out there and do it, to dare to do it so very well. And from where I sit, remarkable consistency. I mean, one of those, I'll zoom in on you here. One of the set of books behind you, there's a maroon book behind you, the Louisiana Law Review. For a brief moment in time, for 4 of the books, I was the editor in chief.
That's very impressive.
5 years later, when I think about the errors that I know were in there, because I don't care how good you are, and I had a fantastic team of the top law students in the state working under me to root out the errors. They're still going to be there. It's hard to do it consistently well, and yet y'all do. And whatever errors you may have, they're minimal, and they've escaped my gaze for the most part.
Well,
but what I love is, and I like your approach to the collaboration, because it seems to me kind of like a great cook with gumbo, right? It's like, some guys can cook a great gumbo during crab season when the very best #1 crabs are coming out of Manchac. But the rest of the year, that's not in the recipe. You're kind of screwed. You guys have an ability to make something flavorful and delicious and wonderful, kind of with whatever you stumble across. And it might be chicken and andouille this week, and it might be something way different next week. It's kind of like, what's in the fridge? We're going to cook it up. And yet it seems like Emerald Lagasse got a hold of it or something. So,
well, thank you. We try, and we do screw things up, but we try. Yeah. And like I said, we have the best of intentions.
Well, in the realm of screw ups, let me ask you this question. I'm sure when you think back over your career, some errors will come to mind sooner than others. For me, one of the things I try to teach my boys and teach myself along the way is what a learning opportunity mistakes can be. So do you have any mistakes you've made or errors that come to mind? You don't have to share the details or embarrassing aspects of it. What are some lessons you've learned along the way running this business with your brother and Brian all these years?
I think there's so many mistakes. Oh my gosh, there's so many mistakes. But I think if I had to look back, the things that I said no to, or the things that I passed on, I shouldn't have. I try for my philosophy to be, except for not going to 5 o'clock meetings. I don't like, superfluous meetings for no reason. But I wish that I would have always said yes to everything, just to see where it led. Just say yes and make yourself uncomfortable sometimes.
I think that's great advice, and I can relate to it, because one thing about the law, we probably turn down more cases than we take. We do injury work and nothing else. But what happens is every so often we'll mess up and pass on a case we should take.
Yep.
And without failure, when that case hits, whether it's a big verdict or a big settlement, you can bet that client or would-be client, and especially their lawyer, if it's a lawyer I knew, they always find a way to come tell you.
Oh, you
Oh,
know
I
it.
remember how that Smith case turned out. It settled for $1 million, and I bought a lake house with my fee. So,
Right.
so it's good advice. I share that just to say we've all said no to some things that we should have not have passed on, and had to
Yes.
come back around. While we're in the realm of lessons learned and business advice, I would be remiss if I let this interview come and go without asking you what advice you might give to someone who kind of wants to be you when they grow up. So we live in a college town. There are tons of people at Southeastern. Maybe people come through your doors and work as interns, or maybe they're just listening
Right.
to the radio or watching one of your podcasts, whatever. But if somebody came to you and was like, wow, Miss Eloise, you're my hero. I want to be you when I grow up. What advice would you give to that young person about, how to get there and what they should do?
I would say just start at the beginning and just shadow anybody and everybody you can at any point to learn different aspects of the business. I never in a million years thought I would be in sales ever. The idea of asking anybody for anything pained me, but it was something that I kind of stumbled into. And I'm more of a relationship seller. Like I don't,
Mhm.
I have to have a relationship with somebody, and also that's kind of just in life. But advice to anybody, I would say shadow anybody and just take every opportunity, say yes, but
Mhm.
never be afraid to ask to do something with somebody or watch somebody or learn from
Yeah.
somebody.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I greatly appreciate it. And I certainly admire where you are in your career, not just as an accomplished businesswoman, but also as a person. I find that personally, you're very widely respected in our area by people like Sarah Mitchell, who one of my lifelong heroes. When I'm a little kid, she's like the top student at PHS. And, all the mamas are bragging about how she's the best kid there. And she just kind of at every level. So, when I see that, hey, she approves of you and you're in that clique, I'm like, this is
I
somebody I
get the
need to be looking
approval.
up to. And so I thank you for that. I promise you I'll be respectful of your time. You have a beautiful family to get back to.
Thank you.
So, but before we go, is there anything else on your mind, on your heart, something we didn't talk about, but that you'd like to share with our viewers and our listeners before we go?
No, just to say that this, people like you, this has been a wonderful community. I'm not from here, never will be able to say I'm from here, but this community has accepted me with open arms, and I feel like, now I've lived here longer than I lived in Mississippi, and so as wild as it was, and as crazy as I thought all you people in Tangipahoa Parish were when I first moved here, I was like, what in the world? These people are wackadoodle. But
Hey,
I guess now I'm one of you, so I
well,
love
look, you go all in. When you marry a guy named Crawfish,
it.
you're all
Right.
in, girl. I mean, that's as
That's right.
Louisiana Tangipahoa as it gets. And
Hey,
to David, people don't know you do have a real name, Fish. If you're watching, buddy, hey to you. Your wife, as usual, has knocked it out the park. Eloise, thank you so much. I'm very
thank you,
grateful.
Parker, for having me. I feel so honored. So thank you.
Well, this has been a great show, and I thank you for your time. And to our viewers and our listeners, thanks for sticking with us to the end. We'll see you again next week. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Parker.